Okay, so now that you have learned how to do the basics of calculating the amount of gain you get with derivatives, we're going to be moving on to lesson 1.2, which is calculating number of game, right like that, you get. So I'm going to just put you get. I was going to put u dot g for like a thing, but I'll just put you get with derivatives. That is a weird d, but that's okay. This is just part 2 to that. There's more things to add on to it. It's not as simple as what we learned in our previous lesson. So let's just recap that really quickly. So last lesson we learned that, let's say you're a 7 out of 10. Because any rating out of 10, any rating that you give someone out of 10, it will be always out of 10, right? So we're going to go ahead and just ignore the 10. We're going to take the numerator. And we're going to take the derivative in respect to x of that. So we have derivative in respect to x of 7. Now if we take that, any number that's a constant that has nothing around it, it's just 7, or any, like they apply to any number, will always be 0, which means that you are a 0 out of 10 if you have no personality. Now, how is personality represented? Personality is x. We said that in the last video, right? But how is it represented with x? So, if you have a personality, that's x to the 0th. That is 1. It requires a good personality, to raise the x value to the first power. So then that would give you what we learned in lesson 1.1, which is that 7, let's say you're a 7 out of 10 with good personality, that'll make you a 7x out of 10, which we go ahead and take, of course, the 10 gets ignored. The derivative in respect to x of 7x, that tells you that you are a solid 7 out of 10. Now they have a good personality. You stay a 7. We'll be learning how to calculate like the 7 out of 10s later on in later units, but for now we're just taking it as is so that it's easier for you to learn right now, so you'll have this part down for later. Now, we know this from the first lesson, but now let's move on to the next one. What would x squared be? Well, there's actually many factors that lead to it, and it can go anywhere from x squared to x cubed onto the infiniteness, but that probably is not possible because there are a lot of factors that lead to it, and each one will be leading to an additional power being added. So one of them is height. Height is very important in AP Rizzics. If you are a guy and you are over 6 feet, you will be able to add another power to it, which means you'd go from x to the first to x squared. But the thing is, you'll never be able to make it here if you don't have a good personality. Good personality is always the base. If you don't have a good personality, it's automatically x to the 0th. It does not matter, which is x to the 0th, by the way, is equal to 1. Which means that which means right here, 7 times x to the 0th would just be 7 times 1, which would lead you back to 7 right here. So this person right here is 7 out of 10, but they have only personality, do not have a good personality. That's what matters. So back here to height, if you're a guy and you are over 6 feet, you're able to get the power moved up from first to second. Now, if you're not that tall, and then for girls, it's anything under, on average, anything under 5'6" or less, on average, statistically. However, this is not exactly how it works. Calculus-based physics is extremely complex and extremely based on different factors. Now, let's go ahead and move on to another factor, which is, so we have height already, we have personality. What else is there? There's also how funny you are. So funny. That's how I'm going to label it. There's probably a word for it, but I'm forgetting it right now. I'm blanking on it. So if you're funny, that also will add another power to it. Now, if you're not within the height ranges right here, then it's okay. You will go from first to second power. So let's go ahead and take all this. Let's go ahead and just quickly. Oh my gosh, that looks disgusting. Just go ahead and erase all this. That's not how I wanted it to erase. Let's go ahead and just. There we go. We're going to erase the whole board right here. Whoa, it's a whiteboard now. So basically, let's go ahead and just do all that real quick. Let's go ahead and just switch to paint bucket. I gotta find my paint bucket. Oh, there it is. There's my tools. Change the color back to what we had it as. All right, cool. Now, let's move on to word problems. So this is question 1. This you might actually see this on the AP Rizzics quiz or test. So let's go ahead and say that first for sake, Alex has a good personality and is a 3 out of 10, but is also funny. And then we can also put just like, and is 5'1". We're going to put, this is masculine. This is the male version of Alex. This is male Alex. So let's go ahead and analyze this real quick. So we can see right here, we automatically get 3 out of 10. That is the initial one right here that we get. 3 out of 10 is what he is. Masculine. M is for masculine. But so he has a good personality, which automatically that makes it X to the first. And then it's also funny, and is 5'1". That means that he does not get raised to the second power with that. So that doesn't really do anything. But it says here is funny, which means that it raises it from the first to 3x squared. Of course, the 10 doesn't matter because everything's out of 10. So now let's go ahead and take the derivative in respect to x of 3x squared. Now, if we take into consideration the power rule here for derivatives, we would know that what happens here is you take 3, and then you move the exponent here to the front, you multiply it by 3, then you times it by x, and you have 2 right here as the exponent. You subtract 1 to it to make up for the one that you got over here. So that becomes 6x, and then that gets reduced down to the first. So that means it leaves you with a 6x out of 10, right? But of course, now that we already took the derivative, if you already take the derivative, you can just remove the x, which means that Alex is now a solid 6 out of 10 after all the calculations that we have. And that's how you do it. There's lesson 1-2.